What's going on, everyone? So, the commercial real estate market, is it going to crash in the next year or two? I'm going to tell you right now, with all the money that's due, I think it's going to crash. And that's my personal belief. Now, if you want to go into reason why, this is my personal opinion, a real estate investor that pays attention to it, and I've been watching the market to see if I can get into commercial real estate for a cheaper deal. Now, while I pay attention to the real estate market, I am not a professional, so I've been paying attention trying to see if I can find a great deal. And one of the issues I am having with it is I'm seeing that all these companies are wanting to sell these properties for commercial real estate, but you cannot get a good return on your investment, especially with the interest rate coming in. So unless you're cashing out these commercial real estate properties, you are not getting a good ROI. And it's better to invest in the stock market right now. And with the political uncertainty, with the election issue, with Trump winning, you know, we don't know what he's going to do, what laws he's going to pass, if he's going to help us with the crisis that's coming out with the $9.61 million debt. This what we see here from the overview. So it's going, as of 2024, the outstanding CRE loan in America will amount to $3 trillion. And about $1 trillion will become due payable within the next 2 years. So these people with 3% loans, 2% loans, were kept taking money out, and now is the interest rate double. So that's going to cause a bigger issue. And then another issue I am seeing is there is a lot of office space that is being available right now. And no one is buying those office space up because no one is going back to the office to work. So the other problem is, if you're going to get into real estate right now, in a commercial real estate, are you going to buy a office building? Because you can buy an office building for cheaper now, but the issue is, what are you going to utilize the office building? Because there's less people working in an office. Even though the companies are making people go back to work to the office, it's still less than it originally was. So what are you going to do in that situation? Well, there's really nothing you can do in that situation if you're in the office space area. So if you can't rent out your office space and it stays empty, you lose income. So with the loan maturing to nearly $1.8 trillion commercial real estate loan set to mature by end of 2026, with the political uncertainty if Trump's going to be able to help them out, get them out of it, the high finance cost, and the back to office work is just outstanding on empty spaces. So you have those four major things that's affecting you. If you don't have people that are going to come back and rent out your office space, then people are not going to want to buy a half-empty building. If you can't sell your property because you bought it at a 3.5 interest rate, and now you're trying to sell it at a 6%, 7% interest rate because your loan is due, you are not going to be able to profit as much as you want, or two, you won't be able to sell it because the ROI isn't there. I've been watching some of these buildings in Houston been selling for half the cost, list cost, because they can't get rid of it. And then with all these office conversion, people don't know what to do with vacancy. They're expecting nearly 20% by the end of 2024 to increase in vacancy for office workers. So that's going to cause a rise in vacancy, impact taxes, impact the city financially, and development of office space conversion is going to be impacted dramatically. And what are you going to use those office space for afterwards? Because people aren't going to work in the office as much, means they don't need those office spaces. So the fifth and final thing I really think of is the price gap expectance. So buyers and sellers haven't been seeing eye to eye on what the asset price is now. And the worst of the pricing decline has been yet to see, to be honest. Because everyone been kicking the bucket down little by little, trying to say, okay, it's going to get solved. The interest rate's going to drop. This is going to happen. Everything's going to be fixed. But now everything's being called. So banks are going to be calling these notes on these big companies that have these commercial loans. And they're going to either go bankrupt because they have too many properties out that has really low interest rate. You're talking about $1.8 trillion, $3 trillion by the end of 2026 that's going to be called. And if we have 6%, 7% interest rate, you are not going to be able to compete with that 3 or 4% you originally have. That 3 or 4% eats into the ROI for these investors. Now, it's in my personal opinion, should you invest in commercial property? Yes, you should invest in commercial property if you can find a good deal. Because right now, if you holding cash, you can look at some of these properties that I've been looking at on the LoopNet. And you see properties for sale auctions. And you can find a really good deal on some of these properties. So if you can get these properties that has multi-use, like a warehouse space, office space, I think those will do good. But I do not think straight office spaces will do well, such as this one. Because what are you going to be able to convert this building into? Unless you can add a lot of things to the building to keep people interested, you are not going to be able to keep paying the bills for the building. So you have to fill up all these office spaces. And a lot of times, these buildings are half empty. And I've been going into some of these, looking at them in person to see, hey, how are they doing in Houston? And to be honest, a lot of these buildings are empty and are ready to be demolished because no one's renting them out. Now, it's not saying that it's a bad thing, because you can still find industrial buildings like this that has a multi-function use, has a warehouse space, and people will buy this. It has an office space, but the interest rate's too high, and I don't know if someone's going to pay $2.4 million for this. That's, unless they're going to buy it and put them themselves, it's just not going to be worth it. So commercial real estate is going to crash. I know that people are going to be optimistic about it, but $3 trillion is going to be due by 2026. It's almost 2025, and that means in the next 2 years, we're going to have $3 trillion due for these bigger corporations, and they're going to have no way to pay it back. I went to an investment seminar talking to these other investors that have millions and millions of dollars that are due, and they're sweating buckets. They're asking me, hey man, how much money can you invest? Because I'm willing to sell this property for you for 75% of what it's cost on the market. And I'm sitting there like 75%? That's a pretty good deal. Hold up. What type of office is it? What is it going to be used for? What's the diversity? And I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, this used to be an office space. Well, everyone went to start working at home again. No, I can't do that because I wouldn't be able to fill the building. And then a dude tried to sell me a warehouse, but then it's dilapidated. And for me to do improvement, the loans to get it up to code to where someone will lease it is too much. So I can't get an improvement loan because the cost of it is at 9%, 10% for me. So I'm not going to borrow money at 9 or 10%. I'd rather just sit it out because I'm comfortable right now. So will commercial real estate fall out? I think so. I think we're going to go into a housing crisis. And in 2025, 2026, it'll be a great time for buyers to pick up some house. Great job for people who have cash, and they can make pretty good return on their investments. I think the next few years it's going to be really good for cash investors, really bad for people who are on high credits and high loan limits, because housing prices are dropping in the commercial and residential. And I've been looking at them, and a bunch of houses. I've been getting the reports from Zillow. I've been getting reports from Redfin. They are dropping prices on houses nonstop to try to get it off the market. I watched houses drop $10,000, $20,000. They still aren't selling. I've seen them drop $50,000 not selling. So expect a housing crisis. I don't care what people say. I expect one coming in 2025 or 2026. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.